this forum, we had the opportunity to be able to share about what's going on in the orange economy of the Bahamas and what we hope to happen, but what are some other ways that you think that they can help to facilitate the connection?
So personally, I am waiting on the passing of the legislation on intellectual property rights, because intellectual property rights is the first way that Bahamian orange economy members create wealth and longevity inside the business. And so I know sometimes we may think it's not part of the investment journey, but it is, because if you can prove that your catalog of work is large enough and impactful enough culturally to the point where somebody is willing to buy a portion of your intellectual property, especially at a time when you need an injection of funds to help push it forward, you are in a great place. We often overlook the power of our music, of our patents, of our lyrics, of our books, of our influence, of our faces, and our creative pieces as something that we can leverage for investment. When you have the Bob Marley name, you can't just slap that anywhere. When you have people going to Rihanna's house as a tourist destination in Barbados, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? And so intellectual property for me is the biggest thing that I think that the government can do. Our government is currently clearly and intentionally making funding available for creatives. All you have to do is know how to write your pitch and your business plan and show what your projections are, and they are willing to either give you the money or loan you the money. And so once you're able to prove again that you can store that, I'm quite sure that the investments will continue to come in, because people love to invest in things that make sense and that will give them a return on interest. A lot of us will have an investment portfolio that we know is not going to give us a return until like 2035. I think the last registered stocks that I purchased, I think it's like 2035, right? And so we have to look at the creative economy in that exact same way. Give us a little time. These things take time.
Kareem?
Well, I could speak about film. I know at one point, a very, very long time ago, we had a film incentive where you would get like a percentage back on what you spent, because the idea was that film was creating all these sort of byproducts in the local community. So you would give back to the filmmakers a little bit of back their budget. And so it was very important for filmmakers to be able to give that back to their investors. But what happens is that investors are tend to go to places where they have incentives. And so it's really kind of make it harder to sort of pitch ourselves to come home, so we can take a little bit more of a closer look at bringing the incentive back.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
I definitely think the film incentive is, vital. I went to a conference last year in LA, and there were people from Netflix and Amazon and NBC, and you're networking throughout the room and telling them like, yo, you should come to the Bahamas to shoot. And I actually scheduled a meeting with a lady from NBC, and we met on Zoom. And as soon as I went and I did the whole pitch, and she said, okay, what is the film incentive that they have in the Bahamas? Well, but what we have in the Bahamas. And so that is definitely something that we need to make sure is brought to the forefront. There are people who have shot without the film incentive being there, because there are other ways that right now, in the meantime, we try to accommodate them, but that is definitely something that I would love to see in the future. So this is going to be my final question, and I would love if one or two people can ask the question, so get your question ready if it's one or two people. But my final question for Kareem and Bodine is, what is your hope for the future of the orange economy for the Bahamas when it pertains to film, Kareem, and when it pertains to music?
I'm very hopeful. I came of age in the early 2000s, and the old Bahamian saying is when you walk through the bush and you have to have a cutlass and cut down your path, and it kind of felt like that's how I was in the beginning. And I remember Bodine when Bodine was a rapper,
Still
and but you're so much more.
Yeah, she's so much
You
more.
were so much more back then too.
Yeah, it's evolved.
And now to see so many people coming through, and so I feel very hopeful for the orange economy because there's so many people that are taking their own creativity into their hands and putting their work out there. And I think that there are so many people coming into the Bahamas that are investing in Bahamians, like myself, and like other people, and giving them opportunities to work outside the Bahamas and creating as a Bahamian that's helping to tell stories from other people around the world. So I feel very positive about the art economy continuing to grow. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to my contemporaries, my girls on stage, my Wendy and my Michielas, my Patrice Morel, and my Ilshas, and some of the other, and Carissa Smiths, being names that are internationally recognized for music and for culture, including me. I don't want us to think that I'm leaving myself out. Kind of in the spirit of Calypso Mama, Marie Duvalier, and then you have the Coconut Woman, Miss Eloise Lewis, because they are who I patterned my stage presence after, but they were international powerhouses for women at the forefront of music. I'm looking forward to people that started out like my aunt and my Grammy, straw vendors. They have their unique designs, which involve a little bit of engineering and design. I want to be able to see those authentic pieces continue to be exported around the world, and that their children and their children's children will be able to benefit from their intellectual property for generations to come. I would love to see, absolutely love to see persons that write, who are in film. You have the Das Quays, and then you have the Sawyer Boys, and so many actors and actresses that are coming up. Soki Siren, who writes and who's Grammy nominated out of Grand Bahama. I'm looking forward to being able to see them also celebrated internationally, but also make a space for us here in the Bahamas to share what makes us authentically Bahamian and have an audience that can not only recognize it, but see us, but also I'd love to see our creative economy continue to grow through giving back to our children a sense of identity and self that they can see on the world stage, because essentially that's what investment in the orange economy is all about.
I love it, I love it. For me, I would love to see writers' retreats. I think people go to Europe all the time for a writer's retreat. I think the Bahamas is a perfect place to do a writer's retreat. I would love to see scholarships. I would love to see Bahamian content on international streaming platforms. I would just love to see that there are more opportunities not only to provide funding, but to provide training and to provide platforms whether someone's coming to do an internship to shadow people in the U.S. I was a part of YLI, which is a program under the U.S. Embassy, and that afforded me as an entrepreneur to go and shadow persons in the U.S. So I think if things like that can be done on a creative aspect of allowing someone who's a fashion designer, someone who's a singer, someone who's building up their career in a creative industry to be able to go over and shadow and have those opportunities, that's what I would love to see. So I want to say thank you to Kareem.
I just want to say one thing. Creativity is really, 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 really important. Like, creativity allows us to think of a world beyond that, our imagination. Like, it makes us think of the future, right? And it makes us like criticize like our current state of affairs as well to make us do better, right? It also encourages us. It also makes us look back at our history so we remember where we came from. And so, like, creators hold a lot of power. And so it's very important that it continues. And so from that point, like, creators are just fundamental to any society and to the planet and to, So I just like to say that.
No, that's good, because I think sometimes people take people in the creative industry, take it for granted about, like you said, it's history, it's all of those things.
And if you don't film it, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't, say again, if it doesn't.
If you don't film it, it doesn't exist.
If you don't film it, it doesn't exist. Do we have any questions for any of our panelists?